What if the bread you eat today was once baked with tree bark and survival? 1,000 years ago, in the frozen lands of Scandinavia, Vikings didn't bake bread for comfort. They baked it to stay alive. And this forgotten recipe might be the toughest bread in history. Travel back to the Viking Age, around 1,000 years ago, a time of long ships, raids, and unforgiving winters. In regions we now call Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, the growing season was short, the soil was harsh, and food was never guaranteed. There were no supermarkets, no imported grains, no luxury ingredients, only what the land could provide and what people could endure. Viking bread wasn't like the soft loaves we know today. It was dense, flat, sometimes brittle. Made primarily from barley or rye, grains that could survive the cold. But during times of famine, even that wasn't enough. So Vikings turned to something unexpected: tree bark. Yes, they would grind the inner bark of pine or birch trees, mix it with whatever grain they had left, and stretch their flour just enough to survive another winter. This wasn't food for pleasure. This was food for survival. The process was simple but harsh. Grains were crushed using stone tools, mixed with water into a rough dough. No yeast, no rise, no softness. Sometimes bark flour was added, giving the bread a bitter taste and rough texture. The dough was shaped into thin, flat rounds and baked over an open fire or on hot stones. The result? A tough, dry bread that could last for weeks, even months, perfect for long sea voyages and brutal winters. For Vikings, this bread wasn't just food, it was survival, mobility, and power. It fueled warriors on long expeditions. It fed families through endless winters. It was carried across oceans in wooden ships. Bread like this made exploration possible. Without it, many Viking journeys may have never happened. Archaeologists have found traces of ancient Viking bread charred onto stones and cooking surfaces, some over 1,000 years old. In some cases, the presence of bark in the bread has confirmed just how desperate conditions could become. And, interestingly, modern survival experts today still study these techniques, learning how Vikings turned almost anything into food. Today, bread is soft, fluffy, perfectly baked with precise measurements and controlled heat. We have white bread, sourdough, multigrain, made for taste, not survival. But Viking bread, it tells a different story. A story of resilience, of adaptation, of people who refused to starve even when nature gave them almost nothing. So the next time you take a bite of bread, remember this: 1,000 years ago, that same bite could have meant the difference between life and death. This was not just food, it was endurance, baked into every piece. And somewhere in history, this forgotten recipe still survives. If you want to uncover more lost foods from history, forgotten recipes, and the real stories behind what people used to eat, make sure to subscribe, because the past is full of flavors you've never imagined.